A lot has already been said about the Tissot PRX. I'm not sure I have anything new to say about it, but in the style of our time, I'm putting my unrequested opinion on the internet, as one does. I should back up. If you don't know, earlier this year, the Swiss brand Tissot announced the PRX line of watches. First, they released a quartz-powered reference, and a few months later, they announced this mechanical reference. A big thanks to my buddy Kirk for loaning me this watch. Tissot is a large and well-known brand. They make a lot of watches. Most of them don't generate much interest or ire in the watch world. But the PRX did, and is. And that's for two reasons: the design and the price. The design we'll get to. The price for this mechanical Swiss watch is $650. The PRX watches are a rebirth of watches Tissot made in the late 70s. In 1978, Tissot launched the Quartz Sea-Star watch, which had a nearly identical design to this modern PRX. A few years after that original watch launched, Tissot registered the name PRX. It stands for "The Price is Right." Excellent. No, it doesn't. It actually stands for Precision Robust, and the X is the Roman numeral 10 for the 10 bars of water resistance this watch has. The 1978 Sea-Star and this PRX were both reactions to the market's interest in sports watches with integrated bracelets. They were big then and they're big now. Fashion is cyclical. The full name for this watch is the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. The steel case is 40mm across, 11mm thick, and 44.5mm long. That's the case. The length is 51mm if you include the full extent of the watch with its first links. The front crystal is sapphire, which is nice. The back crystal is mineral crystal, which is surprising. I don't have a problem with that, I just find that interesting. Like I said before, the watch has a water resistance rating of 10 bars, or 100 meters, though it does not have a screw-down crown. And of course, it costs $650. Inside the watch is a relatively new movement, the Powermatic 80. The Powermatic 80 uses the ETA C07 as its base. This movement was developed to slowly replace the time-tested ETA 2824. The Powermatic 80 offers two major advantages over the 2824. First, the power reserve has been doubled to 80 hours, that's more than 3 days. And second, the Powermatic uses an anti-magnetic balance spring. The balance is made of a Swatch Group alloy that they call Nivacron. Some people claim that Nivacron is simply silicon, but from my lazy research, it seems that Nivacron is not just a registered name for silicon, it's actually a new alloy. Tissot does not provide timing standards for the PRX, but this specific watch is running at about -6 seconds per day. Now let's talk about this design. The uninformed critic will immediately jump in and say, "Lol, Royal Oak clone." No, it's not. You look foolish. There are definitely elements that are shared with the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, an integrated bracelet, and a Waffle Dial. But this PRX and the 1978 Sea-Star are much more reminiscent of the 1977 Rolex Oyster Quartz. Like, suspiciously reminiscent, especially since the Oyster Quartz debuted 1 year before the Quartz Sea-Star. And yeah, Rolex was taking some cues from Audemars Piguet, but neither the PRX nor the Oyster Quartz come close enough to be criticized as Royal Oak copies. Read a book, man. Somehow I find this design both retro and modern. The angles are interesting and crisp, and the finishing helps emphasize them. The case is mostly brushed with polished bevels along the top sides of the case. It's perfectly done, and it's probably done by a machine. That's fine with me. Bezel is also polished and rises prominently from the case. So does the case back. This shallow mid-case makes the watch seem even thinner than its 11.5mm, which is already pretty damn thin. The Waffle Dial is probably my least favorite design element of this watch. I like a textured dial, but this treatment seems like a bargain attempt to do something luxurious. I say leave the dials like this to experts like Gerard Perregaux and AP. Honestly, everything under this crystal is unimpressive to me. There's nothing really bad here, but nothing that wows me in the same way that the case, bracelet, and price do. When I first saw photos of the PRX, I had immediate doubts about this bracelet. I've seen what some brands do for a bracelet on a watch under $700. There are some real shitters out there, and this is not one of those. It feels much more solid and less jangly than I was expecting. It's not at a luxury level, but I do think it's better than most $650 watches. The bracelet is sized with pins, which isn't great, but it doesn't use collars either. The bracelet also comes with half links. No, not halflings, half links. The bracelet connects to the case with quick-release spring bars. I hope these are here because Tissot plans to release some strap options. Rubber, sailcloth, leather. If they offer some good straps, I might have to buy this watch. On my 7-inch wrist, the PRX wears slightly larger than a round 40mm watch. That's a thing with integrated bracelet watches. It's simple geometry. A watch like this is wider where it meets the bracelet. Like I've said before, we should be taking surface area into account as a primary watch dimension. Watches like this also wear a bit larger because the bracelet starts wider towards the case. It starts at about 27mm, though it does taper down to 18mm at the clasp. At 138 grams, the PRX is fairly light for a steel sports watch with a bracelet. The case and bracelet are wide, but everything is thin. Thinness really is part of the design language of this PRX. Now, I usually don't make verdicts on watches. They're too personal and subjective. But I'll say this. If you've spent more than $1,000 on a watch before, and you like how this looks, fucking go for it. In the world of Swiss watches, $650 is a bargain. For many people, most people in the world in fact, $650 is a life-changing amount of money. So I want to recognize the place of unearned privilege I'm speaking from when I say, $650, is that all? There are other mechanical watches in this price range that are worthy of your attention. I'm thinking specifically of those from Japan, Seiko and Citizen. But from Switzerland, there's very little that has these specs, these looks, and the price of the PRX. I already don't wear every watch I own, I just have too many, so I'm not a PRX buyer yet. I'd love to see Tissot put some bold dials under this crystal. Red, yellow, pink. I'm not going to hold my breath though. I think the PRX can appeal to watch collectors and newbies alike. People who know watches already will appreciate the value and the retro design and the heritage of this watch. New buyers will just know they're getting a Swiss watch from a big name that looks cool and costs under $1,000. Oh, and you can see the gear thingies. Did you say that's called a movement? The PRX is a winner. It's not perfect, but it's perfect enough. When this watch was first announced, a buddy of mine messaged me and said, "Oh my god, they're going to sell 1 billion of these." And you know what? I hope they do.